From the plains to the rolling hills, Oklahoma is a state that resonates with stories of resilience, determination, and pride. Welcome to Inside the 1581, a podcast of the Oklahoma Hospital Association. Together, we'll dive deep into the heartbeat of the great state of Oklahoma as we journey through the rich history, diverse culture, and the ever-evolving landscape within the 1,581 miles of border in our nation's 20th largest state. Each episode of Inside the 1581 will feature conversations with the many voices which help shape our state's future and our shared vision of improving health and healthcare in Oklahoma.
Welcome back to this edition of Inside the 1581, and we've been having a conversation with Mark Kirby, who is the supervisory cybersecurity advisor for Oklahoma and Arkansas with CISA. And as we were finishing out our conversation, we're talking a little bit about, some of the practices that hospitals and any organization, doesn't have to be hospitals, should be utilizing in order to ensure they have the best protocols in place to protect themselves from a cyber intrusion. And we were talking about some of the impacts potentially on robots. And so Alex was saying, I didn't even think about that. And I don't think we have a real appreciation, as I said in the first part of the program, how many of the devices and services that we have that spit out an IP address that has a unique signature to a device that a bad actor, if they're in your system, can exploit. And one of the things I think of, Mark, and maybe we talk a little bit, not only in our organizations, but even in our own homes. When we think about Wi-Fi access, we have Wi-Fi access in our hospitals. We have some that are available just for patients, for our medical teams, for the public. We walk in with our Apple Watches, which are accessible, our phones, which are accessible. Now we've got Meta glasses, which are accessible. So we have so much, and even implants that we might have, right? That can have that. And so that in of itself creates a whole new dynamic of risk. Yes. So kind of your thoughts on that, and maybe for listeners too, things they might want to think about even in their own family, let alone their own organization. What are some best practices?
Wow. Okay. So
I know in my house, it's just like we have a hidden password and we have a hidden, IP address, or even our network is hidden. I only know it, and only our guests when we tell them. Real bad guys can probably figure it out, obviously, but at least internally, when you're walking down the street, you're not logging into Knoll Home, which is us. That's the name of our network.
Yeah. Well, so that's one thing. I want to stress too that what you do at home and what you do at work for the IT guys, the way I see things, and I always try to get things down to I apply the KISS principle to everything. There's no difference, right? So how you should handle your home Wi-Fi, to me, is exactly the same way that you should handle your corporate Wi-Fi. And I am of the mind that, and while I don't practice this totally at home, I do have separate networks for both my Ring doorbell, all that type of stuff from my personal home network. I try to segment as much as possible, because that operational technology stuff is out there. That's how you get to it anywhere you want to be. You want to log into your Ring doorbell, and see what's going on. It's going to the cloud.
It's your automobile now.
Yes.
I mean, I just read an article probably about 8 months ago about a mysterious death of somebody in California. They think that a bad actor may have taken over their vehicle.
Oh, that wouldn't surprise me.
So, we don't think about it. Keep going. I mean, it didn't occur to me. Yes, our Ring doorbell, my automobile, my sprinkler system, you name it.
Yeah. So much. I mean, I get myself in trouble because I tell the story, but
part of what we do inside the 1581 is tell stories. Okay. So you're okay.
Oh,
you're
good.
clear.
So as long as no one holds this against me. So a while ago, during COVID, our washing machine died, right? And so we needed a washing machine. And so we went to the store and we did all this type of stuff. And I was like, I wanted to get my wife what she wanted and everything else like that. And she kept saying, I don't care. So I happened to see a washing machine that had a wireless connection to an OT network, so I could, check the loads and the laundry and stuff like that.
It'll also tell you when to take it out of the dryer. Yes. That's what your wife wants you to do.
Yeah. Well, to make matters worse, so I got that all connected, and I didn't tell her that it had this capability. And so one time while I was on the road, I noticed she was doing it, and I texted her and I said, "Oh, glad to see you're being productive today." And she goes, text me, like, "What do you mean? I see you're finally doing the laundry and things like that." And since then, I had to disable that feature. But that was not a good choice in my life.
You should know better.
Yeah, well,
you should know better. But I think that's an example, though, of separate apart from the fact that you probably shouldn't text your wife that. We have. Or you now have a new appreciation of when you intrude your system,
Yes.
the response you get back from your wife. So when we think about this, particularly on the wireless systems, so whether it's in our homes, I think you made a good point, segregating out different networks. So, but in small businesses too, medical practices as an example, what are some of the things that we should be thinking about too on those wireless systems?
Personally, I always recommend the safest thing is to keep it off your corporate network. So if you can afford to have a truly air-gapped, buy a separate thing, do a separate managed service provider that handles just your customer wireless or whatever, they can just connect to that and never, ever touch a device on your corporate network, that would make me a happy camper. But I understand that that's not always feasible. So, and I wrote down a little analogy, but that's your front door to your organization. Somebody sitting in your hospital waiting room watching Netflix should in no way be able to touch one of your IV or get to any of your critical services in there. And as long as you share the same device in the way I think of things, if that wireless network is touching my corporate network, there's always that risk. There's always that potential that a threat actor could use that as a way to get into your network. So I always advocate and push for, if you can afford it or you can lock it down even more and you put the necessary systems in place to look for any type of deviant behavior, do it. But the best one for me is an air-gapped one.
Right. Well, and I think you make a good point. So we have, some very rural hospitals in our state, some of which may share an FTE with the local school system. And so the local school system locking down their system is very different than the hospital, right?
Right.
So you've got the ability to stream to a TV. Well, somehow that TV is connected to a network. Which network are they connected to? Is it a parallel network? You make all of those good points.
Right.
And I think when an organization is looking to try and develop their strategy, now, my understanding is that CISA can help with that.
Yes.
And so tell us a little bit about what you as an organization can bring to a hospital that may not be very resource rich, but certainly wants to be able to protect, their providers, their organization. So what can CISA do on a proactive basis to help them?
Well, the first thing I always recommend to organizations is sign up for vulnerability scanning, SciHi.
And that's free, right?
That's absolutely free.
So that's a really good point.
Yes.
So explain that again.
SciHi, we call it SciHi, but it's actually vulnerability scanning. We're not going inside your network to scan. We're looking at all your public-facing IP. So we're basically looking at the front of your house or the front of your hospital and telling you, once a week or maybe more often, depending. Hey, you left the window open. Your doors aren't locked. Your things like that. If you want to do it like that, but we're doing it from your firewall or whatever's going out to the public, whatever the public can see, because I can go to a website called Shodan, I can do a scan and I can look at everything because it's public. And,
Sure.
And so that's what I think. Going back to that one thing is a challenge. Like anybody, when it's public, anybody can hunt it down. Anybody can look at it. We can't. It's illegal to go inside your network and scan your network and do all that type of stuff. But vulnerability scanning is the number one thing that I think every organization should sign up for. And then number two would be our known exploited vulnerabilities, where you get our alerts and advisories, your IT department, so they can kind of make those decisions that they, hey, do we need to do something about this? Does this really apply to us? The third thing is, hey, have us out. We do tabletop exercises. If you've never been through, hey, what do we do during a ransomware? We'll do a tabletop. We come out there, we develop the entire thing. As I do that with a lot of the hospitals around here already, and we facilitate it. You don't really have to do anything. You just have to show up. It's just time. Everything we do is free. It is at no cost to you. We'll do a workshop. Let's say you don't understand cyber hygiene, or you want to help your employees do a better job on, hey, what's a phishing email? How do I tell the difference? I can do a workshop. You want me to come out and speak and talk about general cyber stuff during a monthly meeting? We do that. That's our job.
Well, I appreciate it because I don't think the general public understands these types of resources that are made available for the business community and for units of government. I think it's really important that they understand, what CIS is doing, really being on the front end. And as those services are offered, I would think too that there's a real encumbrance on leadership in whatever organization to really drive home an environment of which we make this a critical concern for the organization to be cyber sound. And so what do you see? Are there any best practices from that standpoint? I know you talked a little bit about governance early on and why governance is important. And I know as an organization, we've been spending some time now on addressing all things artificial intelligence. We've launched a new service to our members, which we call the Coalition for Health AI in Oklahoma. And so what we're going to be doing is focusing a lot on how we create governance and other strategies to address AI, how it will be used, how it will be deployed, and how can we ensure that it is done in an environment in which there's total safety in this. I would assume there are recommendations for policies in terms of how hospitals or clinics should organize themselves internally for this. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, we can help. I can point you to some literature that there is from NIST or some of the other major ones. But I think a lot of times it's really, each organization handles risk or looks at risk differently. What's not an acceptable risk to one is an acceptable risk to another. So that makes a bit of a challenge. Policies can be, should have a standard policy, for AI. But your use case may be different. That's going to drive your policy, your procedures, and how you're going to do it, and different things like that. From a leadership perspective, leading by example. I mean, that's the biggest challenge. If the CEO or the C-suite's not interested in multi-factor authentication or goes around and you implement it and they don't care about it, well then the employees probably aren't going to really care about it. It's not going to be that important. So coming down from a cyber perspective, and I think really the things that are going on in the world right now, I think the C-suite has gotten a lot more in tune with that. So that really is helpful. But doing that, making sure that people make mistakes. We're human. If someone clicks a link and does something, there should be a process in place, ideally for them to do it. But don't make them feel bad for clicking a link because
we're human.
Yeah.
We think it's coming from, we think it's legit. I mean, they're very good. The bad guys are really good at confusing all of us. And so we've talked about, CIS's role on the front end and certainly the proactive place that you can play in helping hospitals prepare, do the tabletop exercises. The port scans is a great example of that. So we do all of that and something happens.
Yes.
So kind of run us through what you all would recommend as kind of what would be our standard operating procedure. We recognize that we've had an intrusion or whatever the event is that takes place. What should be like the next 5 steps?
Consult your incident response plan, number one.
Absolutely.
That should
so folks listening, you got to make sure that you have an incident response plan specifically for cyber.
Yep.
Okay.
And that ideally,
open your toolkit. What's in the toolkit tells you what to do next.
Yep, exactly. So in it, you should see, I would definitely, if you have cyber insurance, consult with them first because they're generally going to be the ones that, as I kind of mentioned earlier, they're going to generally be the ones that come in and want to do the investigation, the forensics and stuff like that to see who, what, when, where,
So they should be part of that incident command on that event or that incident. Okay.
Yep, definitely. Your legal should be another one because the messaging is going to have to be controlled very quickly because ransomware is going to get out on the news somehow because that ransomware may keep it quiet for a little bit, but then they're going to make an announcement, say, hey, we've got this, or it'll end up on somewhere, and a news agency is going to run with it when they see it. Notifying the FBI. If you have not made contact or don't know who your FBI contacts are, we have in Oklahoma City, there's a dedicated cyber task force.
There is, yeah. And we've had them participate in our, when we brought you guys in for our whole boot camp that we had a little while ago. We had the agent in charge. So there are resources from them too. And they have the investigative side too.
Yes.
So it complements what you guys do. Now that you have the investigators on their side, and they might know who the bad actors are.
Yep. Exactly. And so reporting to ic3.gov, I mean, be ready to fill out the entire thing. It will trigger something, especially the way I would recommend having the FBI come out and kind of do this exact same thing and talk about how their process would work. But they definitely need to be brought in. We have a partnership with the FBI, so you could report it to CISA. That would immediately as well, or let me know, and I'll report it. I recommend organizations let the FBI know, especially if it's a criminal or it's a business email compromise, because they have methods and mechanisms in place to potentially stop, maybe in one case, an organization changed accounts and were sending $250,000 overseas. And when I was working over in Arkansas, because they heard me say, hey, always call the FBI or ic3.gov, they were able to stop the money transfer. The organization recovered everything but $10,000. And so, hey, $240,000, lesson learned. Now they have, nobody changes account without a policy and a procedure on how we're going to do account changes, but notifying the FBI, and then they will let us know. And then I would most likely, either myself or Calvin would reach out and say, hey, are you willing to share any of the information? We want to gather information because we want to know if there's any other potential targets out there, or there looks like there's I can't think of the word I want to think. Anyways, they're going to expand operations.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we do all of that. It would seem like there's one part that's probably really important, and that's bringing in your communications plan as a part of this, because you certainly talking to the media, the public, our employees, your patients. Does CISA provide any resources to help organizations develop a comprehensive communications plan on that?
We would probably, so in our workshop, we would probably more help talk through. You would build your own one for your needs. We could do a workshop on what should be included in one from industry best practice, because everything we do is industry. But I'm not going to walk in and say, here's a fill in the blank communication plan. Right. We don't do that because that's it's your organization. We want to help. We want if we did it for you, what have you really learned? But we want to make you better and stronger and more risk adverse and or not risk adverse, but more resilient.
Sure. At the Hospital Association, we own our own insurance agency, and so we helped with our colleagues in the Texas Hospital Association in New Mexico create a new captive tool for insurance captive for hospitals that want to participate in our cyber insurance products, as well as we have traditional insurance products. So we spent a lot of time, trying to build this for our members, and I know there are, other items that organizations should think about. So we think about our insurance, protecting that. We have our right consultants. We've got our plan. Is there anything else that we may want to be thinking about? Any other key pieces that could be missing from an organization in order to ensure that they've got the full view and the full complement of resources to assist them?
Well, yeah, we could do an assessment, and it's
okay. Yep. Perfect. So and maybe the assessment should be a part. I think we do an assessment when we bring on board a new hospital,
right?
But regardless of who you use as your carrier to provide insurance, assessments on a regular basis are probably helpful.
Yeah, and what I get is, so mine's not going to be specific to HIPAA and compliance and all that type of stuff. So we are looking more at the policies and procedures. But I do think that working, I know I push insurance a lot, but I mean, in my opinion, besides banking, they're probably one of the best understanding risk for an organization. That's that's their business model is risk, and so helping organizations from that perspective, because what I bring to the table is not going to be industry specific. It's going to be general, what we see across industry, what's best practices, because, hey, energy is going to have a different look on things than healthcare and so on. Certainly. But an assessment, hey, it gives you this, it gives you, one, I have no vested interest in the outcome of it. I'm just there to help you and say, this is how we see things. and here's your report. And I always suggest get with your legal, get with whoever you need to discuss that. And maybe there's some gaps in here that you need that may not be currently covered within your insurance or within your policies and procedures that you need to fill those gaps. I think in one case, I was doing a tabletop with a healthcare organization here in Oklahoma, and they realized that they were not holding their vendors that would come in and log into the network to the same cybersecurity standards that they held their same healthcare workers to, and that was a problem. Another one was they didn't have a policy or procedure on cell phone usage, and that was one of the things we went down was, hey, the network's down. What are the nurses? And
everyone tethers off of their phone, and now you've got a whole nother issue tied to that.
Right, and it's HIPAA, and so I don't specialize in the particulars of HIPAA. I do know that getting involved with like there's cyber performance goals specific for healthcare that's out there on the healthcare website. Getting involved, I don't know if it's a fee or not, but like maybe the healthcare ISAC, if healthcare has an ISAC, and lots of great information and just staying involved in that. And then for the IT folks, Oklahoma, we have our own Discord channel for cybersecurity, so the IT guys can join that if they have questions. There's a few hundred of us now that are on there. Someone generally will answer a question if you have one of those one-offs. I mean, it's a lot more in depth than that. We've got CISA has our alerts and advisories. You can sign up for that. Also sends out, and this is cost savings for an organization. We offer free training. So, web-based, in some cases, there may be an opportunity to go for certain types of training. We pay for the training. We don't pay for the travel, but we also have free training. So maybe your budget's not that big, and there's some webinars that are coming up that would either help employees or help your IT folks to become a little stronger in ransomware or identifying. Maybe one of the threat actors, things like that.
Well, there's plenty of resources there, and certainly, and CISA is one of those. And so, Mark, we appreciate spending time, and we can talk about this for another hour.
Oh yeah, we didn't even touch AI.
No, we didn't. And maybe that's another one we come back. We've talked a couple times about AI, and for our listeners too, the Oklahoma Hospital Association, through our insurance agency and our cyber captive, we've launched a program we call the Byte Club, as in BYTE. And so in the Byte Club, we help our members understand what's going on in the marketplace, ensuring that they are staying up to date on what those challenges are. And we do bring in from time to time guests. I mean, we brought in CISA, we brought in the FBI, we bring in our insurance carriers and others. So if you're listening and you want to learn more about the Byte Club and what that means in terms of additional resources to your cyber protection leadership team, please reach out to us at OHA and we'll walk you through that. But again, Mark, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure. I enjoyed it.
Mark Kirby's been our guest today on Inside the 1581. He is the supervisory cybersecurity advisor for Oklahoma and Arkansas for CISA. And we appreciate our listeners in joining us each and every month. We do this bi-monthly, and it takes a lot of work to get our guests all organized and putting this together. And so as we wrap up, I just want to say thank you to listening, and also want to extend a huge thank you to our sponsors at Forefront Healthcare, who support our organization, support our members, and certainly support this streaming product that we have for our members. I want to thank our producer, Alex Taylor, for making the podcast happen, and our Vice President of Strategic Communications, Susie Wallace, who also ensures that we stay on task. Alex, I was walking out the office to go come in here. She says, "You're late. You got to get in the studio." So Susie is very good at that, and we appreciate everything that she does to help us. If you're listening in, hopefully you're checking us out on Apple Podcasts or looking at Spotify, and certainly on YouTube, you can watch the video version of this. So I just want to, again, thank you all for joining us. And also I want to mention our music that we're using is the track Gunslinger by Ends of the Earth. We appreciate them letting us use this music. And again, until next time when we meet, thank you for joining us in this edition of Inside the 1581.